think that we are ready to take some questions. So Ty, I don't know if you have any questions for us?
Yeah, Vonna asks, do you have any suggestions for how to actually get a conversation going? And Michael kind of echoes that. What do you think what can parents say to start the conversation?
Well, that's a good question.
Personally, ideally, I think it's got to start really young. I mean, of course, if you haven't started young...
What's really young?
3 years old.
Guys. No.
Diapers. No, I'm kidding. It's a joke.
But I would say definitely in the 8-year-old range. Definitely at that age, 7, 8-year-old, they need to start understand it. And if you're going to talk to them at that age, I think the answer to the question really delves into kind of, it depends on their age and it depends on the individual and what they're going to respond to and how they're going to respond. But when you're talking to them at a young age, definitely do it on their level. Speak to them on plain terms and kind of just milk before meat.
Right, and let's be honest, this is also part of healthy sexuality as well. And so I think it goes well talking about healthy sexuality, obviously giving them just a little bit at a time, but starting at an early age where they understand that pornography is a perversion and it's not, it has destructive and negative effects. And if they can understand that from an early age, and you have this open door policy from an early age where you can tell them early on, hey, if you come across something, come and let me know. I'm not going to be mad. I just want to make sure that I'm there to help. So please, keep that open door policy there from an early age.
And last thing I'll say on that question, because I do feel this, that if you can be real with your kid, just be real with them. Be as authentic as possible. And if you say, like, well, how do you start the conversation? Start it by talking about your experience. Not explicitly, but saying, like, hey, when I was your age, kids were talking about this. Mm-hmm. When I was your age, I was exposed to it. What's going on? Like, have you seen it? And if you have, let me tell you what it's doing. Let me tell you what it is. Or kids, what I'm saying, just be real with them. Love them and be real.
What can a parent do when they walk in and catch their kids looking at porn? It's hard not to immediately be angry.
Yeah. No, and we totally understand. It's your flesh and blood. And the second they start doing something that's contrary to your set of family values, that's going to be really hard for you not to react negatively. But this is where we say, be careful. Be very careful on how you respond in that situation.
It is a sensitive issue, and it's hard to be black and white when it comes to this. Like, there's a right and there's a wrong way to do it, because every situation is a little bit different. There's different contexts. The relationship is always a little bit different. But I think as an overarching kind of principle is make sure that you show understanding and love before you come down on them, or even saying that you come down on them.
Coming back to the understanding. First, you need to kind of allow them to understand that you understand why that might be something that they would engage in. Kind of like get yourself on their level. Kind of say, I understand why that might be appealing or attractive, or I understand why you may have gone that route, but do you know that this, and this? If you come in and immediately get angry, and immediately send them to their room, immediately say you should be ashamed of yourself, you've kind of destroyed everything we've just talked about. Mm-hmm. And this is coming from your youth. If you want to connect with them, if you want to engage with them, they're already, if you walk in on them, they're going to be embarrassed, they're going to be shamed, they're going to feel incredible guilt, and you just got to be real with them, and you got to say, oh.
And I want to say one last thing too. I think when you walk in and feeling that feeling of being angry, kind of also shows that your expectation is a little off from the beginning. That's already saying that, oh, my little darling angel, oh, my little son, my little daughter, they don't get into that. I think before you have to have the expectation that they're going to come across it.
They're going to come across it.
It can't be a surprise. You need to change your, like I said, going back to the way you grew up, to the way it is today, it comes to them. They don't even have to be seeking it out all the time. Sometimes it can come to them and then they get curious and they keep going with it. So just keep that in mind, that if you understand how it is today, when you come across it, it won't be so much as a surprise, and prevention isn't so much about avoidance, it's about talking about it and educating and helping them understand how it's going to affect them. If they really feel like you're there to protect them, that's where it's going to happen.
And we're not trying to downplay this issue. We're not trying to say, it's not a big deal, let them explore and this. We're not saying that at all. We're trying to help you engage in conversation with your youth to address this in an effective way that's actually going to change behaviors. Because if you address it in the alternative way, the natural instinct way, it might even push them further down the road. Does that make sense?
Have
Anyway.
we beaten the horse
Yeah.
enough? We tend to do that.
Any other questions?
How much space should we give them? I mean, do parents need to monitor texts, emails, Facebook? Where's the line?
Okay.
Well, this is
I have
is
a thought, but
some personal opinion here, but I think preventative tools are always helpful.
they
I
are.
think that you definitely get filtration systems on your computer, right? I think
sure.
that
Especially
you're
in your
open
home.
about it, and you let them know why you're doing that. Just like why you lock your doors at night, helping them understand we want to protect the house. You want to protect the home, and helping them understand the intent of why you're doing those things rather than I'm doing those things because I think you're going behind my back and looking at pornography. I think if they get the real intent behind it, then those tools are more effective.
I was going to say, coming back to the question of, how open do you want to be, or how closed do you want to be with restrictions? I kind of feel like those restrictions they're good. They're do them, have them in place, definitely, absolutely. However, if the child really wants to get some of this content, they're gonna find it through a friend, through other means. They're gonna get it, and so giving all those filtration systems and all the kind of restrictions makes them far more difficult, and that is a good thing. But if you can educate them so that they choose not to in the first place, I think that's obviously the best remedy. Because I have a filtration system at home. However, it never comes to where I'm trying to get around it because I'm educated enough to where I try to avoid it. In fact, it's a companion to me. It's like ooh, thanks, appreciate that, bump it,
There.
So
We're roommates.
what have you. So what we're saying is educate them and help them there. But how much do you moderate?
I think the bottom line
it comes down to each kid,
Yeah.
and being real with them.
I think the bottom line for us is we think preventative tools, are very important, and you should use them. So I think we just leave it at that.
Yeah.
How can you prepare young adults to be independently responsible in this area? When they will be away from home and have their own technology.
First and foremost, example. Through you. Healthy sexuality, they're going to learn that from you, in most cases, from your example with your spouse. So how do you kind of give them the tools to be responsible when they leave? Through you guys. But beyond that, it's got to come from giving them the why. Helping them understand why it's important to avoid pornography because it's going to affect future relationships, just as Maria talked about. Had someone sat down with her and said, hey, you know what, pornography can cause you to actually prefer pornography over an actual relationship, and science is showing that, and it can also be an addiction, she'd been like, whoa, and she would have avoided future relationship issues. So giving them the tools up here is crucial in my opinion, and in our opinion, to help them once they leave, once they're a young adult and going on, to make wise decisions. That's our goal as an organization. Give them the tools to have them choose for themselves. We're not enforcing anything. We're just kind of saying, this is what it's doing, and then we want kids to choose for themselves.
And it comes down to the respect, the respect part that we talked about before, because that's another expectation you need to make sure you have right from the beginning. They will turn 18, they will move out, and they will be on their own. You have a certain time frame to be able to get them the tools and resources. But in the end, it's their choice, and you have to respect that, even though that's not necessarily what you want, especially if you have evidence or you are already aware that they might be doing things. They're going to make mistakes. They're teenagers. Who doesn't make it a mistake? I mean, it's a mistake, countless mistakes. And not me.
Any other questions?
Anyway.
What do you do when you bring up the subject and your kids are silent and won't talk?
Well, I think that's a result. That's a great question. I think that's a result of. I'm assuming that individual that asked that question, it was kind of, they brought it up for the first time. And obviously it's an awkward encounter. This is an awkward conversation for the first time. Kids going, oh my gosh, my parent just brought up the P word or whatever. So the first conversation, if you haven't yet had that conversation, it might be awkward. But if you're real with them and you talk about it often in a responsible and an effective way, it's not going to be awkward down the road. The first few conversations might be awkward. So that, I think, my point to that is, I think that's a result of, like, it's the first time.
And also, I think an important component when you are going to sit down and talk with them is always start with your intent first. Let them know why you're sitting down and talking with them. If you go just right into the science, they're blindsided. They don't know why you're doing it. They don't know, and then there's some misinterpretation, and that might close them off to listening to your message. If they understand the real intent, why you're doing it, that just clears everything up. And don't say one thing your intent, but they can feel that it's a different intent too, because a lot of people do that as well.
Be honest.
Say honestly the reason it is. I think that makes a huge difference in people relaxing and opening up.
And use slang, like dude. No, just kidding.
Use dude, awesome, radical, fist bump. Those are always nice.
Any other questions?
Maybe the last question.
Okay.
We've got about 5 minutes forward. Do you think parents need to talk about pornography with 7 to 8-year-old little girls? Many parents haven't even talked about sex with their kids at that young of an age, much less sexual perversions, especially little girls.
I think this goes a little bit into the opinion route, but I feel that to some small degree, the answer to that would be yes. 7, 8-year-old girls, to a small degree, giving them just enough information to help them be aware of something that they may encounter, because the statistics don't lie. The average age of exposure, average, is in between 11 and 9 years old. That means people are being exposed younger. The worst thing that could happen is if they're exposed to some hardcore pornography, have no idea what it is, never heard of it, and it might even induce some emotions and curiosity in them to make them want to continue. You want to kind of beat that curve. You want to kind of, so you don't want to kind of come out and address it in using deep, heavy language and.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Not much more. I'll be brief on this, but I think it's just a little bit at a time. I don't think you can come at any age and
maybe
just
explaining what it is.
Exactly.
Is enough at that age. Just saying what it is.
And again, I think this. We often talk about this. Pornography is a perversion of healthy sexuality, and so when you talk about what you don't, you also talk about what people do in a committed, loving relationship, and where intimacy is appropriate. And if they understand the context is absolutely important. But again, baby steps, a little bit at a time, and start from an early age.
And we have some content on our website that talks about the difference between healthy sexuality or sex and pornography, because you don't want to have a conflicting message to you saying that sex is bad or sex with a loved one is wrong or can cause these things. There is a distinct difference. Even chemically in what it's released in the brain. So you can go into that as well. Anything else? I think we're going to wrap up. Again, go to our website, fightthenewdrug.org, learn more about our organization. If you support us, like us on Facebook, become a fighter. And also, we're just going to say, we do assemblies, we do presentations, we go out and educate youth. If in your community you'd like us to come and do that, we've done it for several other schools and it's been a huge success. Statistics are showing so far that over 90% of the youth have indicated that the information is very helpful and informative. So let us know.
And we love what we do. We're passionate about this, and we know that it's making a difference. We always get people coming back to us, unsolicited requests for us to come and be a part of their project or whatever, a chapter at their university. And so we know that there are a lot of people that want to be engaged. So if you want to get involved, if your teenagers want to get involved, go to our site. You can get a hold of us there. Pretty simple. My email address, cam@fightthenewdrug.org. Clay at Fight the New Drug. We're pretty transparent. Just get in touch with us. We're doing all we can to do something on this issue.
We're going to end with this. Number 1, be open. Number 2, non-judgmental. Number 3, family values with science. And number 4, respect them and love them. We're out.